I'm having a meltdown, and not because of the weather. We finally have some snow here in southwestern Ontario, and I say finally because it's mid-January 2024. We should have had snow months ago, but that's a whole other issue and a different video. This one is about banned books, and thank you to Renee from Beyond Books and MJ from Reading This Life for their videos about this issue. I'll leave links to their channels down below, so be sure to go check them out to get more information about this. For myself, there are a number of things about this. One, the fact that there are people who are complaining and asking for books to be taken off shelves because they have an issue with them. To me, it's a matter of if you don't like the content, if it's not something you're interested in, then don't read it. But that doesn't mean that other people should be denied that opportunity. Books are for reading, whether that's for enjoyment, just having a bit of an escape from all the things in the everyday, but they're also used for research. And I'll explain more about that when I get to the topic of the banned books. There are a number of things that come up with this particular issue that have caused this meltdown. And when I originally thought of doing this video, it would have been very different than the one that is going to be up now. There's a lot of different reasons for that. First off, as I say, here we are still in 2024 with people trying to eliminate books yet again. And if you read anything about history, current or much longer, then you know people have been trying to eliminate books for a very long time. And I find it very sad and very irritating that it's still going on. The other thing that irritates me about this is apparently here in Canada we have a Freedom to Read Week, and this year it will be February 18th to the 24th, so I'll definitely be having videos related to banned books during that week. I find that surprising because I worked in the education system for 23 years at both the elementary and the high school levels, and I cannot recall a single year where we did anything for freedom to read. Now, it may have happened in other schools. I can only refer to the schools that I was in my work experience. But I find that extremely upsetting when you consider schools have their own libraries. They have librarians who are teachers. So why on earth is this not being made a bigger deal in schools and informing our youth to let them know about this? So that's bugaboo number 2. Because 1, I don't like being told what to do and what I can read. 2, I'm irritated that this wasn't addressed more in schools. 3, as I started putting together my list, I was going to go online and check the library branches that had the books that I've selected, only to find out that the library system had been hacked, and a number of those things that I rely on as someone with a disability who no longer drives, I now don't have access to the library currently. And I'll talk a bit more about that and the ripple effect of these hackers later on. To the issue of banned books. Thanks to, as I said, Renee and MJ, I went to the American Library Association website and I found a nice, concise list of 100 books that had been challenged between 2010 and 2019. I then decided to take a look at whether we have this issue in Canada, and I was quite surprised. I mean, I figured there were still some challenges and things out there, but I was surprised to find out especially some of the titles. So unfortunately, our Canadian Library Association does not have a website that's as user-friendly as the American site. I did find freedomtoread.ca, which did at least have a little more concise information, and I went through the list of books that they had there. Also, when you click on the different titles on that website, it will tell you not only what the story is about, but why the books were challenged, whether that was for violent content, sexually explicit, whatever it is, the reasons were that people had for bringing forward their complaint. So as I go through reading the books, I'll talk about not only the story itself, why I believe it's an important read, but I'll also explain what some of the challenges were. The other part to this, because as I say, I compared the US and the Canadian lists, and from that I pulled together my own list of books that I plan to read this year. It turns out it will definitely get me closer to this year on Goodreads. I set a goal of 50 books, partly because this year I'm looking at pulling my information and all the research together, although it will definitely be a year of rereads as I go through chapter by chapter and getting all that information together on index cards and mind webs and notes. But it won't be like the 2 previous years where I've been reading for content, so it'll be a slower read year, or so I thought. Once I found out about this 24 in 24 banned book reading, I decided I'll definitely have 24 books to read. So I pulled together my list. Now 3 of them are series, 2 I've already read, so there'll be a reread, which is The House of Night, which is 13 books, the Harry Potter series, which is 6 books, and Hunger Games, which is 3 books. So actually, I've read all 3 series. I just need to read the last one in, The Hunger Games. Those are 3 of the books that I chose. I pulled everything together, and because 3 of them are series, it turns out there'll be 35 reads this year. It would be 36, except I'm not reading the Holy Bible front to back. Yes, it is one of the books that has been banned, and yes, I will definitely be referring to that this year, because as I start pulling together all my information from the Da Vinci Spiral, and that turned into 50 plus books, I will be referring to the Bible to read the different sections that came up in all those other books. In other words, for me, the Bible is a research tool. It also relates back to the work by Zachariah Sitchin and things that he tied in there. It relates to Alan Alford, who also makes reference. It will come up with the Nephilim that I have a book on. It, of course, relates to the Da Vinci Code, the secrets of the code, the Templars, the Masons. All these books interconnect. So to ban one book and make that unavailable to people doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of different reasons to refer to a book. As this year goes on, I'll be reading these books. Many of them are rereads, actually, of the 35 that I've picked to read. 28 will be rereads. And it's not that I'm a rebel. They were books I was interested in or I was curious about. Books like Lord of the Flies. When I was in public school, we did that as a novel study. So I'm interested in going back to revisit that story. I have some idea what happened, but it'll be interesting to go back. Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. I definitely remember reading that. I've seen different videos recently about Anne. It's an important story. It's about history. It's about understanding why these issues between humans doesn't help anybody. It does not make the planet better for any of us. Anne's story is important. The Golden Compass, I've never read, but I'm definitely curious to read it now. Clockwork Orange. I saw that movie back when I was in college in the early 1980s. It was a different movie, not what I would typically watch, and I'd never read the book. But now that I see it on the list, I'm curious. Looking for Alaska. If it's the book that I remember, it was an excellent read about teenagers and difficult decisions. I'm definitely looking forward to revisiting that. Star Wars, A New Hope. Are you kidding me? Star Wars is on a list of banned books, so I'm definitely going to be looking for that. The Giver. I remember reading that, and it was actually a book on the curriculum in high school. Go Ask Alice. I read that when I was in high school. It was an excellent book. Sadly, my copy I've passed on to someone else, so I now have to get a copy again. But I remember that story, and again, about teenagers and substance use and abuse. It's an important read. I'll be talking more about each of those books individually as I finish reading them, which comes to the other bugaboo about all of this. I currently cannot find out where copies of these books are at the library. As I put together my list yesterday, I decided to also check out which of the books were going to be available at my public library. Because sadly, what I've noticed over the last few years there are fewer and fewer books available. There are a number of books available now through Libby in audio form or ebook format. Hand in book is becoming less common, which is unfortunate because I am a hand in book type of person. I'm currently pulling together my notes on the supernatural. But what I also do in a book is I make notes in the margins and I highlight. Obviously, I can't do that with a library book. So what I do is use my handy little sticky notes. And then when I finished reading, I'll make notations. Or, as I've mentioned in other videos, once I've given that book a test run, and I've decided it's something I will refer to again over time, like Aleph by Paulo Coelho, The Afterlife Frequency by Mark Anthony, then I'll purchase the book and then I can go through and do my highlighting and making my notes. For me, hand in book is important. I've tried audiobooks. It's actually how I read the first 2 books of The Hunger Games because my library didn't have them in old school format. There's certainly an upside to that type of a book. It's just my mind wanders when I'm listening to an audiobook or I have it on and I'm doing something else, which for me, when I'm reading, I want to be immersed in whatever I'm reading, whether that's science fiction, horror, ancient Egypt, ghosts and hauntings, whatever genre I'm reading, truly experience it. For me, everyone else is different, but for me, I just need that book in hand so I can focus, but I also like 2 pages at a time. It's just one of my quirks, which is why ebooks also don't work for me because you typically just get 1 page. It's nice that there are so many other formats. People can pick and choose. I know some people will have an audiobook playing while they have the book in hand. The other thing with audiobooks for me is Because I used to work with Kurzweil, which is a program that helped a number of students because it reads text. The nice thing about Kurzweil is you can also change the speed of the reader, and the voices are so much better now than when I first started using the program with students. But because you can change the speed, it was ideal. So for students who have some processing issues, you could slow it down. They were able to put the information together and understand it at a pace that was comfortable for them. I also found that very helpful because I monitored a resource room and I would make note of the students who had to turn the speed down. That also let me know that when I was speaking to them, I needed to slow down my speech and pause to allow them the time to understand what I was saying. There were other students who would turn it up. Again, that let me know that when I was working with them, I needed to talk a little bit faster or I would lose them. Unfortunately, with audiobooks, you don't have that option. It just reads at one speed. In order to, again, stay focused, I needed the speed higher because that's how things work for me. And that's not an option with the audiobooks. So when I look at an audiobook and it says 7 to 10 hours, that just seems way too long. The bugaboo, hackers. Sadly, until I went to look up these titles, I didn't know that in December, our public library had been hacked. So a number of things have crashed. At the moment, you can go to the library, or now you can go back into the library. 3 of the branches out of the 16 were closed. And I'm looking more now into the different articles regarding that because, like I say, I didn't know until yesterday. Because I've been reading through my personal library, I hadn't borrowed books in a little while. I'd returned the books on the Franklin expedition probably in November, which is why I was so surprised when I went to look this up and I couldn't get anywhere. Currently, your account isn't available. You cannot access the library catalog, meaning I can't find out if they have these titles or what branch they may be at. As I say, because I live with chronic pain, I have a permanent disability, I no longer drive, I can't afford to hire a cab and go out to 16 different branches hoping that one of them may have a few of these titles. Because as I said, a lot of these books are no longer available. The one option I do have is checking out Libby, but like I say, I'm not an audio or an ebook person, so I have to wait until the library can get this all set up. Thanks to whoever these hackers were, that now puts me behind on all of this. But it's a much bigger problem. That's just how it's impacted me. There are thousands and thousands of other people who have been negatively impacted by this. And not just people with physical disabilities who rely on the library either for resources, because like me, we can't all afford to always go out and buy all the books that we want to read. But it impacts low-income families. Parents who want to read with their children, and the library is where they can get access to those books. Adults who want to read couldn't go in to get books. I mean, it's a huge ripple effect. Now, why someone decided to target the library, I have no idea. But they've impacted daily programs for mothers with infants. There are various groups that meet at the libraries, knitting clubs, book clubs, writing clubs. So all those people have been impacted. various programs, the New to Canada programs, students who go to use the computers, because not every student has a computer at home, high school, college, or university. But now, because the computers were all down as well, it wasn't just the catalog and all those resources. All of those things were gone. So New to Canada people couldn't get the services and support that they needed. Job searchers couldn't go in and use the job bank. I mean, it's huge, the ripple effect and the number of people who were impacted because of this. So there's my other bugaboo. It isn't just people who think they have the right to take away information from people, as in making complaints and wanting books removed. There's the fact that the education system I worked in wasn't even talking about this banned book Freedom to Read Week. And then there's the ripple effect of the hackers and all those people that they've impacted. For what? But it goes beyond that, because as I read an article about what happened with the library, and this, as it turns out, happened in December, it isn't just my local library that had been hit. Apparently, Toronto's public library had been impacted in October. There were 5 hospitals that were impacted as well, and it's all cyber attacks. Besides being frustrated that, there are so many of those services currently unavailable, which puts some of my other plans on hold, but it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason. So I guess the universe is just testing to see that I keep my language appropriate and that I go with the flow. Obviously, I wasn't meant to get this all put together in the next few weeks, which means I can get some other things done. But yeah, it's frustrating because for whatever reasons that these cyber attacks are happening, like anything, I guess it's the best example of how interconnected everything is. So they've impacted children, adults, able-bodied, disabled, high income, low income. It's irritating. For me, it was also a good validation of why I don't trust or rely on everything in terms of technology. I do things old school. So my notes from the supernatural are handwritten. I have pages because I'm trying to incorporate and collate the people and the different books that they come in. So like Tesla, Carl Jung, so many others. Again, that's all handwritten. I'm putting together and setting up an index card file so that I can easily find whether I'm looking for a location or if I need a definition. That, again, is all going to be handwritten, not on technology. And it's not that I think my system will be hit. I mean, there's nothing to find on there. I have a very low social media presence, YouTube, Goodreads, that's it. Don't have the other stuff. But I also don't want to risk, and I've had computers crash in the past since much of my work in the school system the last few years had been in assistive technology labs. I'm well aware of all the problems that happen just on a day-to-day basic maintenance, let alone dealing with crashes. So thanks to Rogers and 2 years of nonsense with their updates, now reading about all these various cyber attacks in my area. Because as I say, I'm not one to follow the news. It's not usually happy or uplifting stories, so this came as a surprise. But if not for the banned book challenge, I wouldn't have found out about it. So again, it's one of those how things connect. As I say, I'll be talking more about the specific books. If you're interested in learning more, I'll have websites and links down below so you can check things out, particularly if you're interested in joining the 24 in 2024 challenge. Also, if you're watching from a country other than Canada or the United States, check out the books that are banned in your own countries. You may be surprised to find some of the titles that are included there. If you agree that books should not be banned, then be sure to give that like button a little tickle. If you're interested in bookish content, silly cats, nature videos, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you know when I upload content that may be of interest to you. Until next time, keep your data safe, take care of yourself, and we'll chat soon.